Well, let's go ahead. So, hey, I'd like to welcome everybody to the Small Business Phoenix Rising project. And our commitment, our crusade, is to provide small business owners the tools, insights, and mentoring needed to get through this tough time and back to being successful and profitable. So just a couple of housekeeping things. As we do this, I'm going to go ahead and mute everybody here in a second. But if you have questions and go ahead and just raise your hand or chat that question into the box, and we're going to get to it. You know, particularly with what's happening with the PPP, we've actually having a few people are having success with getting loans, which is absolutely awesome. So what we like to provide are tools, insights, and mentoring. And today we're going to have both John Lansbaum and John Stacy talk about two companies that have actually gotten funded on the PPP. And then after that, I'm going to speak a little bit about the book that I wrote and what I call the marketing and advertising trap and how to stay out of it. And particularly right now, you definitely want to. So with that being said, let's go ahead and let's have John Lansbaum talk a little bit about the company that he knows of that had some success. So why don't you go ahead, John, take it away. Are you there, John Lansbaum?
I think he had to run away for a second.
Looks like he's MIA.
All right, John Stacy, why don't you start?
Sure. So one of my clients, it's about a $7.5 million company. He just got funded last week on the PPP. Yeah. And so he's got roughly 65 employees. Now, the thing that you have to understand, he's a little larger than however, he's had a banking relationship with a banking manager for 20 some years. And as he started talking to them, am I still unmuted? Okay.
No, you're good.
The banking manager worked with him and actually virtually filled out the application and wrote it through as quickly as possible. So he was on the very front end of getting his application in, but it was because of the banking relationship, the long-term banking relationship. And from start to finish, it took about 7 days, which is, you know, pretty quick. When you know today, they're saying that essentially the money's all gone for the PPP, or it's been committed, and we don't know what committed really means. So if your application's in and it's been to the SBA, is that part of the committed? Which is probably another discussion. But when it comes down to it, it was a very quick 7-day process, but it was driven by the fact that he had everything ready. He uses ADP. ADP prepared a specific report, and everybody that's working with ADP would get the same report. So it was very simple, but by the time they got that report from ADP, the 941, and there were 941s, and at that point, like I said, less than a 7-day process, but it's largely because of a long-term relationship with the same bank and banking manager.
Cool. So how much did he have to pay his banker?
He did. Well, he's been his banker's making money.
No kickback?
No kickback. Nope.
Okay.
No.
That was a joke.
No fee for helping him get the application filled out.
That was a banking joke for those of us that are bankers.
Oh.
So.
Oh. I
Cool.
Thought it was a government thing.
So talk about a little bit about his business, if you're okay with that. I mean, share what you want to share, but what kind of a business does he have and what does he do?
A specialized delivery company. He delivers in about 10 or 11 different states now. It's all electronic delivery, so it's primarily copiers and plus primarily copiers, Canon, Ricoh, Konica, HP. And he's been with that business. He's got major contracts with multiple of those companies, and he also then picks up lease returns. So he delivers and picks up, and charges a base fee for delivering that. And again, he's in any place from Texas, Louisiana, Kansas, Arkansas, Tennessee, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, and just a little bit of Florida.
Okay, cool. Thanks, John. All right, John Lansbaum, you there? You there, John? John Lambsbaum.
You said he had to run away for a second, so I don't know what a second means to John Lansbaum, but oh,
There he
Hi,
is.
everybody. Sorry about that. We're having a little work done here at the home office, and unfortunately, we just ran into a problem.
Did you fix it?
So no, I didn't, but it will be fixed before long.
Okay. So John, why don't you tell us about the business that you know that just got funded? How much
Yeah,
they were
so
funded for?
I
What type of
was,
business?
No problem. So I've got a friend of mine who owns a business home services company in the Carolinas, and they applied for the PPP and EIDL just the same, in pretty much the same way that I did. The only difference is he used the First National Bank of North Carolina, and I used Bank of America. They bank with First National Bank of North Carolina. I bank with Bank of America. So there you go. But the process that he went through was very, very similar to the process that we went through. The biggest difference between his business and my business is he's got 72 employees and we've got 4. So they made their application. They did it on Monday following the initial opening of the process. And they were funded on this past Wednesday, or I'm sorry, on Tuesday. And he got a call from his banker all freaked out because they had an extra, I think it was, well, I know, they had an extra $960,000 in their bank account. So they applied for, the 2.5 times payroll, and they received it. And it wasn't a big deal. And they're already putting the money to work.
Cool. So he's a happy man.
You could say that. You could definitely say that. And for them, they've got 35 technicians that go into homes. And it's very difficult to find folks that are good and that not only are qualified but pass all the background checks and are good. So they really wanted to keep all 35 of these people, and they absolutely are able to do that now.
Yeah, cool. Very cool. All right. Do we have any questions from anybody about the PPP or actually any of the loan products at all? Raise your hand or just chat in the box. Yes. Go ahead.
I read on CNN that all the money was spent.
Yep, that is correct.
And that is correct. The Houston Business Journal just sent out one of their immediate updates saying the same thing. And I don't know how much information you guys have been kind of sucking up or reading about the entire process. Congress is working on an extension, and there's going to be another somewhere between 250 and $300 billion earmarked for small business. However, it's stuck in committee or in Congress as they argue over partisan issues, trying to get the approval on the whole thing. So the best thing that we can do as small business owners is send an email to your congressman and send an email to both senators in your state. And you can do that through the congressman or the senator's office, telling them that essentially, I'm a small business owner, I really need the funding, haven't seen it yet, and understand that the system's out of money. You got to help us.
Yeah.
So,
And then
John, real quick question then. Just because you haven't gotten money at this point doesn't mean that you're not going to get any or that you're approved. And there's really no way that anybody's able to communicate whether you are in that first tranche or not.
That's
that
correct. And in fact, I've been in contact with my banker over at BOA on a daily basis, and she sent me an email a little while ago telling me she was going to call with an update. So as of right now, that's all I know.
Yes, Adam, what you got? Yeah, you're not unmuted.
Unmute, Adam.
Ha! All
There
right.
you go.
Well, that's technology is hard. My apologies, y'all. My experience on this one here is we did apply for the PPP the Tuesday or the Friday. Yeah, the Tuesday after the Friday it opened. We went through Amagi Bank. Now, I don't bank with Amagi, but I do know a banker down there. They allowed me to open up a bank account. And they've been in pretty good communication with me. Let me know what's going on. I still haven't received my funds, but I did receive two things today. One, a letter from the CEO saying this morning, look, we know you haven't got your money yet, but you specifically have been approved. They gave me my SBA approval number and all that jazz. And then I signed my closing documents. So just today. So they said the money will be in my bank in the next couple of days, actually. So that means that hopefully I actually did get in. Now, I think that's going to be hope for other people like John, who did apply well in advance, who still hasn't gotten anything. But hopefully the banks will be a little bit more communicative. I don't know the word. Anyway, you know what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to talk well. But so hopefully that's good news for a lot of people, including myself.
Yeah, it is.
So to give you an update, Adam, we talked on Tuesday. I think yesterday I got a communication from Amagi. They provided me the application to sign via DocuSign. They signed that. They signed it, and I'm just not sure where they are after that.
So I've gone through 2 rounds with Amagi as far as things to sign. Was it Tuesday, I believe it was, I had the official documents that were signed that were supposed to go straight to the SBA. I signed that Tuesday, and then this morning I got the actual loan agreement, the closing docs this morning to sign. So until you get the closing docs, you may still be a little nervous. I don't know. I'm going to be nervous until I see the money hit my account.
Exactly.
Never a done deal till the money shows up. Cool. Any other questions? Tony's mentioning here, guys, gals, the issue with the big banks versus the little banks is real when it comes to the PPP. So Tony wants to say something here. So let me get to you, Tony. Okay, go ahead, Tony.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. I'm going back to what John said and what Adam said. I bank with Amagi. I also bank with Chase, and Chase is my primary bank. So I went to them first, thinking that a big bank would be prepared and be able to do what they needed to do. I finished my application on Monday night. I just say I'm so dissatisfied. They basically haven't even gotten back to me. So if you got Amagi, you got confirmation, you're far ahead. I think a little bank they were agile. They were able to move fast. This was a program that was sprung on all the banks. And if you have a smaller bank, you have probably a better chance of having success than if you have a big bank. John talked about Bank of America. I can tell you my story with Chase. They're great banks to have for image, but quite honestly, when it comes to you and the importance of your business, those banks could care less about you other than whenever they're collecting money from you.
Cool. Jonah, did you have something to say?
Is that, you said Jonah?
Yes, Jonah.
Yeah. I filled out the application online. There was no application online. So finally, when I did fill out the application, I made an appointment to go to see SBA, not SBA, sorry, Bank of America. And when I went over there on the appointment table, they had a listing of different agencies where you should contact and do something. I said, why is this not thing published for other people to see? And come to find out that they said, well, it's in the news, so go check out the news. And my concern was that why isn't being sent out to every customer of theirs, business, at least business customers. And so it was quite frustrating. And I don't know what's going to happen with that application I filled out yesterday. So I know I'm on the long away from the waiting list on that one.
Yeah, well, once we get to this next set of funding, I think it's going to be, there's more loans that are going to go out. So, well, great. Thanks, guys. We need to move on here, but appreciate the experiences that everyone's sharing right now. So my name is Andy King. I also own a company called Pinpoint Marketing. That's what I've been doing for the last 10 years. And today I'm going to talk about the marketing and advertising trap. And this is probably so relevant to what's happening right now with COVID-19. In a regular market, many businesses have difficulty with this and fall into this all the time. And I want to talk a little bit about that. Last year, I wrote a book called Stop Selling Used Shoes Out of VW Bus, 3 Simple Steps to Profitable and Sustainable Marketing. And that's really about keeping businesses out of this marketing and advertising trap. So I'm going to explain a little bit about that. I'm going to tell you a little bit about my experience with it and how I fell into it. So in 1991, I started my first business. At the time I was in business school, I had an entrepreneur class, I had a small business class, and a marketing class. And I thought I was prepped. I thought I was ready to go out in the business world and go out and make millions of dollars. So my business that I started was buying used shoes and reselling them. Now, these were shoes that were returned to Macy's, Nordstrom's, Neiman Marcus, really nice high-end shoes. And these stores have policies that whether you wear these shoes for 2 days or 2 weeks, it really doesn't matter. They're going to go ahead and refund them for you and take them back if you want to return them. So I get a pair of $250 pair of Kohans that I could turn around and sell for $50. I'd only pay about $1 or $2 for the shoes. My sales model is really simple. I would actually go door to door, finding mainly women at home during the day. And I would tell them about these great shoes I have and, how they could get a $200 pair of shoes for $25, $30, $50. And they would say, wow, that's amazing, Andy. Where can I look at those? And I said, well, come out to my office. And I would have them come out to my VW bus. That was my office. I had built these wooden shelves and I had all these used shoes, and I would go door to door, mostly finding women at home during the day and trying to talk them into coming out to my van so they could look at my shoes. And as harebrained of an idea as that was, I was actually pretty successful. In fact, thought I was going to transform the whole industry. Instead of women going to the mall, they would have guys going around with VW buses selling them used shoes, going door to door. Because the last thing that a woman wants to do is go to the mall, right? They would much rather have a strange guy come up to the front door and invite them out to their van. And I thought this because Ralph Lauren, this is how he got his start. He actually sold ties of the trunk of his car. But as I was doing this, I kind of hit a hiccup. And the hiccup was a movie that came out called Silence of the Lambs. And if you've seen that movie, it's about a guy that has a van that invites women out to his van, but he's not trying to sell them used shoes. He wants to cut them up into itty bitty pieces. So despite that movie coming out and a lot of women being freaked out, I was still very successful and I was still making better than $50 an hour. But what I started to notice, and here's the trap, is that if I was selling, I was making money. But as soon as I stopped selling, as soon as I stopped fishing, is when I stopped making money. And I started to ride what I call the roller coaster ride of consistently inconsistent sales revenues, meaning that with a lot of businesses, particularly with mine, my revenue was so inconsistent that it was consistently inconsistent. That one month I'd bring in $7,000, the next month I'd bring in $250, the next month I'd bring in $300, the next month it would be $2,000. And what I realized is that it's business kryptonite. It is the most deadly thing to business is cash flow that's inconsistent. And that's exactly what we're seeing right now. We're in the mess that we're in right now because it's a cash flow issue. We don't have revenue coming in, and 6 months after starting my business, I was now living in my van with my used shoes down by the river. And if you remember the old Saturday Night Live back in the 90s, there's a whole skit of Chris Farley talking about how he lives in his van down by the river. So as I was in my van down by the river, I started to do some introspection. I started to realize that there were all these blind spots that I wasn't even aware of, meaning that I didn't know what I didn't know, and I didn't even know that I didn't know it. I know that sounds a little redundant, but at least when we have a blind spot on our car, we're very aware of the fact that we need to look into the rearview mirror to make sure that when we change lanes, we're not going to hit another car. This kind of blind spot that I had no concept. I just didn't understand. I was a 21-year-old kid thinking that he was going to make a lot of money running around with a VW bus selling used shoes to women. And I blame a lot of this, at least the misconceptions I have on popular culture. Another movie, Field of Dreams. Kevin Costner plays a guy that's going through a midlife crisis, has all sorts of daddy issues, really likes baseball. He takes his cornfield that's on his farm, mows it down, and builds a baseball diamond. And then suddenly ghosts show up. And these ghosts are former baseball players. And the big line from that movie is, if you build it, they will come. And unfortunately, too many businesses have bought into this. You have a good product, you have a good service, and it's just like, man, if I just make it, people are going to show up, they're going to buy it. And there couldn't be anything that's further from the truth. In fact, there's all kinds of case studies that disprove it. One in particular that I always bring up is VHS versus Betamax. Betamax was the better product, but VHS ended up winning. And it's because the marketing was better. Urban myths. You hear about the restaurant. That is totally awesome. It has a line that goes around the corner. They do no advertising. This is an urban myth. Or at least at minimum, an outlier. There may be one or two restaurants that like that, but the busiest restaurants that I know of, and in my former life, I owned and operated some restaurants, they have to advertise the heck out of their business to be able to bring in business. Unfortunately, the reality is, it isn't the best product that sells the most, it's the product that's marketed the best that sells the most. And that is true through and through. Like I said, we could go through case study after case study on this. So I was living in my van down by the river. I came across a quote by Will Rogers. He says there's three kinds of men. One that learn by observation, the second one learns by reading, and then the third one has to pee on the electric fence themselves to figure it out. Me selling used shoes out of a VW bus was me peeing on the electric fence. It was pretty far out there, and I wasn't successful, and it was because of riding a roller coaster of consistently inconsistent sales revenues. So I started to do things differently. I started to read. In fact, over the next 20 years, I probably read 200 books on business development, marketing, sales, advertising, you name it. And then I started working at places that were very successful. And I actually went and worked at McDonald's that has some of the best systems. They know how to run a business, as well as they know how to market. They know how to advertise. And then I got myself a couple of really good mentors, people that had been down the path many times before. Conclusion is, effective marketing requires a process. And essentially, that is what the crux of the book is that there's 3 simple steps to profitable and sustainable marketing. My why to all of this, and I'm very passionate about it, is that I don't want people to make the mistakes I was making. It's too easy to fall into this marketing and advertising trap where we're spending time and effort, money on things that are just not going to be beneficial. And if I can help somebody avert that, great. Case study, the marketing advertising trap. I'm going to talk about transactional versus foundational marketing efforts. And most of us that are in business probably are not even aware of this. Transactional marketing is any marketing effort that gives you exposure to a certain group of people for a certain length of time. Once the time is up, once the money is spent, that's it. You get what you want, you get what you get. Examples of this are pay-per-click, radio ads, direct mail, TV, magazine, Google, AdSense, digital newspaper, billboards, anything where you go in there and you pay to have access to a certain group of people for a certain length of time. Many new businesses will spend themselves to death with this stuff. There's always somebody out there that's trying to sell you something, whether it's a radio ad, whether it's a billboard, and they will tell you over and over that it's going to work, that it's going to make you money. And it may, and most of the time it won't. Foundational marketing is any marketing effort that once built and set up will continue to generate sales over and over at a minimal cost. It may cost a little bit more money to get that foundational marketing strategy in place, but once it's in place at a very minimal cost, it will continue to bring in revenue. So examples of that are business cards, brochures, flyers, website, email drip, online revenues, or online video, online reviews, blogs, signage. A business card, as simple as a business card is, will bring in money over time. There may be initial costs of getting the business card designed, even getting them printed and what have you, but the cost of continuing to use business cards is pretty minimal. These are the things right now, particularly with COVID-19, that we need to focus on. That really is the takeaway. Transactional marketing is always a question of if. It's always a question of, is this going to be profitable? Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. Most of the time it isn't, because you have a ton of people out there trying to sell you a ton of stuff, and it's very easy to fall into it. Foundational marketing is not a question of if, it's only when. Once you have your website built, when it's been optimized for Google, it will pay for itself if you can stay in business long enough, and it will continue to bring in revenue day after day, month after month. All you got to do is pay for the hosting and the maintenance of it. So during COVID-19, we need to focus on foundational. And some of this may be pretty straightforward. I think for most of us, you'd be out of your mind right now to purchase, $2,500 a month worth of pay-per-click ads or try to get a billboard. I mean, we're really, really at a unique time when it probably makes no sense to do any of that. But there's a relationship, there's a balancing act that needs to take place between the two. Because what I'm not trying to say is that transactional marketing is evil or it's bad. It has to be used correctly. And it has to almost be used hand in hand with foundational marketing, meaning that you need to have your foundational marketing set up before you go and you spend a bunch of money on the transactional stuff. Once you generate leads, lead generation, once you have a certain number of leads, you need to have the systems in place to make sure that you're following up with those leads, the emails, the phone calls. The system has to be built before you start advertising. And I hope that makes sense. These are the things that we should focus on. And I say you need to do this, or you one day soon will be living in your van with your used shoes by the river. And I'm speaking metaphorically. It's so important that you focus on the foundational marketing. So any questions? It could be about what I just talked about, or it could be about what John and Adam were talking about, the PPP. But I'm hoping that helps. Raise your hand, or just tell me to, or just unmute yourself if you're able to. If you do have any questions, also too, you can reach me at my email, andy@pinpointmarketingsolutions.com. And if you want to talk to me, just reach out to me. We can spend some time doing a one-on-one. And slide 67. All right, here we go. Now, also too, I'm going to actually take this whole presentation. It's already been recorded. I'm going to put it up on YouTube, and I'll send out an email. So if I went through this kind of quickly, go ahead and watch the YouTube video of it. All right. There are no questions. We'll kind of close up right now. I'm hoping everybody's really finding this valuable, at least from my perspective. I am, particularly with what we're hearing about the PPP, because for a certain number of days and weeks there, we knew absolutely nothing about what was happening for anybody. And now it's good to hear that actually people are actually getting funded. The thing right now is just to stay hopeful, to stay vigilant. I did a video yesterday, and I'm going to send that out as well, that I recorded. And I talked about in the 2009 recession, in the subsequent years, there was over 20,000 suicides. And the suicides were based on the financials and the economy. The suicide rate is very, very consistent. So they're able to go in there and actually measure it against what may be happening in the world. And there were an additional 220,000 suicides. And obviously, these were people that lost hope. And we're going to see that more and more, particularly as this goes out further and further. Because if people don't get the help, they don't get the money, they don't get what they need to run their businesses, it's going to be more difficult for them. There's no doubt about it. So our message and what we're really trying to do here is instill hope and also perspective, because at one point or another, this is going to end. It's going to get mitigated. We're going to assess the risk, and then we're going to, get back to what we're normally doing and resuming our lives. So please keep hope, keep moving forward. Our next meeting is going to be April 21st. And we appreciate everybody coming out. And if you have any friends, family, business associates, please send them the link, let them know about the meeting, and let's get them on. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.